Smalls. I suppose you don't even know who the babe is either. It's plugged. What? Chewing tobacco?
Tobacco, man.
What do you do with it? You're killing me, Smalls.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I've got some what I consider good news. I don't know how excited the viewers here are going to be for this news, but I think this is wonderful. Obviously, I've been talking quite a while, probably since the channel launched, about how the comic book industry is having a hard time reaching new markets, specifically younger readers, and they weren't marketing to them correctly. They were bringing in YA authors to write traditional periodic comic books. They were taking traditional comic book writers and trying to make YA graphic novels, and it felt like DC was kind of getting on track with their DC YA graphic novels, although I do have a few issues with the way that they're using the characters and as far as synergy. But now, finally, we have news that Marvel's taking it to the next level. They are going to be teaming with Scholastic to bring the most popular heroes in the entire world, teaming them with the market leader in graphic novels marketed for young readers and hopefully growing new comic book fans. And I think this is wonderful news. Now, in this video, I am going to read an article from Forbes.com kind of talking about the details of the agreement. And then I'm going to bring Perch from Comics by Perch on, and we're going to talk about this. We've obviously talked about these issues on the channel together multiple times, so I couldn't think of a better person to bring on and kind of talk about this deal, which I think he's also excited about as well. But before I do that, it looks like YouTube was doing another one of those purges where you kind of lose a big group of subscribers over a 2 or 3 day period, which happens every few months. They do like a big purging or whatever. But I am hearing from some regular viewers that they were unsubscribed to the channel. So they still had normal YouTube accounts, but they were unsubscribed to Thinking Critical. So if you're a subscriber and you didn't get notifications, or if you're not sure if you're still subscribed, please go and check. And if you aren't, resubscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate that. And if you've been, watching the channel lately but haven't decided to subscribe yet, please consider subscribing to Thinking Critical. I put a lot of work into the channel to put out what I consider to be some of the most balanced yet critical takes on the comic book industry, whether it be reviews, talking about news, more larger opinion-based videos, as well as the live streams with comics aficionados. If you're enjoying the channel, please subscribe. And if you were unsubscribed by YouTube, please resubscribe to the channel and put those numbers back up. I would really appreciate it. Now let's get on to the article from Forbes.com. Marvel Entertainment, famous for superhero team-ups, today unveiled a high-powered alliance on the business side, joining forces with global kids publishing heavyweight Scholastic Graphix imprint on a multi-year original graphic novel program to complement the collaboration between Marvel and Scholastic on prose novels announced earlier this year. The deal is set to bring iconic Marvel characters like Miles Morales' Spider-Man, Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel, and Shuri from Black Panther to young readers in a series of original works from acclaimed creators. Marvel and Scholastic's new original graphic novels will kick off with Miles Morales' Shockwaves, written by best-selling author Justin A. Reynolds, with art by Eisner Award-nominated artist Pablo Leon. Marvel and Scholastic will debut all new adventures following Kamala Khan, written by rising graphic novel writer Nadia Shamas, and Shuri, written by New York Times bestselling author Roseanne A. Brown. Marvel says more details on these new original graphic novels will be released in the coming months. The deal represents a major move in the comics publishing market, estimated at just over $1 billion in 2018, according to industry site ICV2. That market is divided up between trade books sold mostly through bookstores, a segment dominated by Scholastic, with its multi-million copy print runs of top-selling young reader titles from Dad Pilkey, Raina Telgemeier, and others, and periodical comics sold through comic shops, where Marvel is a top dog at about a 40% market share. Marvel has been making big strides with its trade book program in recent years, including aggressive efforts to bring young readers into the fold. That can be difficult to do on the periodical side, where efforts to appeal to more diverse demographics of younger readers have been met with indifference or sometimes hostility from long-term fans who comprise the bulk of comic store customers. Licensing the creation of kid-oriented comics to Scholastic makes all kinds of sense creatively from Marvel branding perspective, and by harnessing Scholastic Graphix' own tremendous clout with teachers, librarians, parents, and kids. Meanwhile, Scholastic gets access to some of the most popular characters in the world, known to millions from the representation on screen in blockbuster movies like Black Panther and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That wraps up the article from Forbes.com. And I have to agree with a lot of what Rob Sokolowitz is selling right there. And I think this is a great move just for the industry, and especially for Marvel, who I personally have been very critical lately with a lot of their moves. But this is a heavyweight move. This is the right move. If you want to go into these markets, you want to go in and attract these younger readers, bringing them into the fold as far as the Marvel comic universe. Scholastic is the perfect partner. Now let's bring Perch from Comics by Perch and see what he thinks about it as well. Here on the channel, we've kind of been monitoring what the strategies of DC Comics and Marvel as they try to expand their audience and kind of get a hold of this YA preteen audience that's been growing so rapidly in the US market. I've been very critical, especially of what Marvel has done, bringing in a lot of kind of big name, like best-selling YA kind of authors, but then putting them on like periodical comics. But today we got word that they're kind of changing the game up, and here to talk with me about that is my good friend Perch. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and this is an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah, so I think we've both been kind of equally critical. It's like Marvel, like you need a strategy if you want to go into these markets. And we both agreed that they do need to go into these markets if they're going to develop a younger audience to transition over to kind of the mainline Marvel universe. You know, they were doing it wrong. They were bringing in Rainbow Rowell, some other kind of big name authors, but they were putting them on comic books. And now I guess they've reached a deal with Scholastic, kind of the industry leader as far as in like your preteen audience, you know, you're 14 and under, starting all the way down to kindergarten, all the way coming up until kids are ready to go into high school. And there's a lot of graphic novels. Obviously, the two biggest names are Dav Pilkey and Raina Telgemeier, and they have a lot of knowledge about the marketplace. And now they have a connection with Marvel. I think this is really smart.
It's definitely smart for Marvel, and it's smart for Disney. So Disney also wants to tap in. They already do to some extent through their licensors into Scholastic and sell content there. There's a lot of Disney books and things. But this gives Disney a slightly more direct route into Scholastic. It's a market that they obviously covet. It hits directly to both Disney and where Marvel wants to go. And it's smart. And again, for most of the viewers, I think, watching this right now, you're probably not the target audience for this. And that's okay. This is the way you should think about this is a good way to reach out to fans that are going to come into the comics now, get a taste of it, hopefully become, addicted and become lifelong comic readers and are going to help support this industry and help it grow 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, like we all did when we were kids. This is a good thing for Marvel. It's a good thing for everybody in theory. Now there is one catch, but we'll get to it.
Yeah, it seems like, Marvel and DC specifically had been wanting to invest in these markets, but they certainly didn't have a clear strategy. And I'm glad that they've come to this conclusion. You and I have talked about they need to bring some people in with these expertise in these markets who have successfully courted these audiences and sold to them. And like I said, you're not going to get a better partner than Scholastic. And Marvel has the characters. They just needed the entry point and the vehicle to actually get them out there. But there's so many good Marvel characters that would connect with those audiences. Obviously, we think about like a Miles Morales Spider-Man. I think Ant-Man would probably be really good for kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's there. Well, and here's we'll get to here's the catch. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's a good market that no longer has the access to the newsstand. It's a captive market. It's people who are interested in the movies. I mean, all the right pieces are there to sell some comics and do some good things and get some people in. You mentioned Dav Pilkey, Raina Telgemeier. I mean, these are people who made now millions of dollars, made really their careers largely via Scholastic. They are sold other places, but that is where they got just amazing exposure and got kids into reading. So all this stuff's good. It is definitely a better strategy than hiring YA authors, getting to write very awkward stories that do not fit the characters, and then cram them into the direct market where the audience they're trying to get isn't going anyway. So this is definitely finally a smarter strategy.
You kind of hit on my one concern here, and I think we've definitely seen that with DC Comics while they're doing their YA graphic novels, is the synergy between the mainline Disney characters and what they're actually going to be able to put out in these Scholastic books. you would hope that there's going to be some type of connective tissue or threads between the character traits, backstories and things like that. That way, when the reader kind of grows up, they move beyond Scholastic, they're ready to move on to the main Marvel line. I think with the way that DC is going right now, the younger readers who read those YA graphic novels aren't really going to recognize the characters that they graduate to. And I think that's going to provide some problems down the road as far as DC's comics. Hopefully Marvel doesn't kind of fall into that same trap where they're kind of giving in to all the pressure that's in society right now of making everything politically correct and trying to make every story a teachable moment rather than an entertaining adventure.
Yeah, and that's my concern. So I think that in addition to just kind of wanting to, there's this feeling at Marvel, and you see it all the time, where they look at some of their characters' history and they believe it's just problematic history. So they would love to update it and adapt it and change it, but they don't feel they can because they've got fans clamoring for the continuity that currently exists and so on. But they struggle with it. It's almost like they hate their own product at times. That feeling comes across. And so DC, as you mentioned, they fell into the trap where they're like, okay, we have a new universe. Let's use it as a way to really talk to this new audience and clean up all those things we don't like about the character's history and make them modern, quote, air quotes, modern. Contemporary. And they wind up in the process kind of losing some of what makes the characters strong to begin with. It's not a bad idea to modernize your characters. I think the Ultimate Universe, in many cases, did that fairly well. But you can very easily kind of lose the essence of the character, and then it will not be as popular. It'll be a kind of a shallow reflection of these very iconic characters that aren't going away. I mean, that's the problem that DC has is they can do the Gotham Highs of the world, but Batman is so well known. Everybody knows Batman. So when you're trying to get watered down Batman, it's just weird. And kids are the fastest ones to smell that and go, this is what I'm interested in. So hopefully Marvel doesn't fall into that same trap. They are going with characters that they believe are definitely aimed at the YA audience as opposed to kind of the core characters. You're not seeing like an Avengers book. You're seeing characters that look tailored to that market, and how those get handled will be interesting to watch.
Well, I remember, not too long ago when Marvel kind of replaced all their mainline characters with new younger versions, and it felt awkward. It did not fit the line, and it really turned off the audience as far as the Marvel Comics universe. I think this is a much better idea where you can actually go and use those characters for positive and maybe get some mileage out of them, introduce the characters into the Marvel universe, or introduce readers into the Marvel universe using some of these maybe more relatable, younger versions of the mainline characters. So it could end up being a good strategy, or what I would call a happy accident.
Yeah, I think there's a chance there. I mean, the characters that they've announced that they're leading with are Miles Morales, which makes complete sense given the Spider-Verse movie and kind of interest in that character. I think that's probably going to be their strongest in a lot of cases because of the synergies there. Then Kamala Khan, so Miss Marvel. It's interesting that they're really kind of more pushing Kamala Khan from their press than Miss Marvel. I'm not sure why, or if this is just kind of how the articles are written. That one, again, I think that Kamala Khan's one where they kind of had lightning in the bottle at the beginning of that character, but it's died off a bit. She's still known by this audience, but I think it's a weaker bet than Miles Morales is right now. And then finally you have Shuri, which it's making that connection from the Black Panther film and kind of the attention there. But in the comic books, Shuri's kind of been all over the place with various powers and other things. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these come across. I think if there's one thing that gives me pause here, it's that we're going to Scholastic, we're getting a new market, new kids. We're leading with Miles Morales, Kamala Khan, and Shuri. It feels like you're leaving some money on the table by not bringing in some other characters as well. So, but this could very well just be the start.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Like I said, I think like the young version of the Wasp would be a good character to bring in there and stuff.
There's a desire, of course, with kids to lean into kind of the education side and the scientist side or the technologist side. So Shuri obviously is an inventor, probably has a lot of appeal there. But if you're going to go that direction, I think, Moon Girl would be a much more obvious fit, I think, for that market. Moon Girl did have some Scholastic, energy in the past. She doesn't have a movie attached to her, but just I think that probably the Moon Girl Devil Dinosaur combo just probably checks a lot of boxes for that age group in terms of what they can go as somebody smart and there's a giant dinosaur friend. There's just Shuri always feels like it never feels like they quite have the character right in terms of what they're trying to do. It's like it's a smarter character than Tony Stark, but also she can do adventures, and it's like it's uncomfortable because we're also going to have the Wasp there as a scientist, and then we're going to have Kamala Khan's doing code, and so Squirrel Girl. It's just at some point it's like who you're combining too many of the same traits all with these characters, and I think you lose something in that. But Miles Morales is definitely going to be a hit for them, I think, in this audience, and that's smart for them to do.
So I do think this is a great idea, and it so much synergizes with what Disney has been doing with the Marvel characters. If you go on, Netflix here, because I'm overseas, there's a lot of Marvel content, cartoons, Lego Marvel aimed at little kids, and I think this is probably a good way to kind of synergize those things, probably up sales on a lot of different markets other than just the comic books.
It's smart to do, and I think I can foresee in the coming weeks, and maybe in the comments of this video, people are going to want to take shots at this because it's it's these characters or whatever it happens to be, Marvel doing something stupid. But I would just say, getting comics in the hand. I mean, think of it this way: many of us, especially collectors, people who've been with Marvel for a long time or anything, we get annoyed with these kind of YA authors in the main line because it doesn't feel like it fits. You're there as a 30-year-old, 40-year-old person, and you're reading a Marvel comic, and you're like, why did we take this detour into YA with this existing book? And many of us, myself included, have said, they should target that audience directly. You get comics to that group. Stop trying to merge these two things together. It doesn't fit. Well, Marvel is now doing that. So I do think this is good. We'll see what kind of comes out of it. The writers that they've picked feel also a little bit more confident to me. They are they're more well known for writing to this audience. It's not it's not these kind of weird fits. Justin Reynolds makes sense in terms of a Miles Morales book. I think it feels like they're taking a safer bet. And with any luck, best case scenario, you get kids interested in comics. They're going to grow into the comics we know and love, and it just builds that audience. That would be a great outcome.
I'm with you. Anything that they can do to go and attract a new audience, and I do think they've unnecessarily brought audiences into conflict with each other because they really shouldn't be consuming the exact same things. Obviously, there's going to be some crossover. So I'm actually quite happy about this. I think this is a great move, and I think actually Marvel kind of went out there and one up DC, who I think has been kind of showing them up lately. So I'm glad Marvel went out there and kind of took what DC was doing and actually kind of took it to the next level. Scholastic and Marvel, it just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's the right place to go. It's the leader. It makes sense for them to partner there. And yeah, there are a million things that can certainly go wrong with this. And I'm sure we'll hear all about them in the comments. But it is, we all know what those things are. For a change, I think this is a company trying to put product appropriate to the right audience in the right place and use maybe some creators that fit. And whether or not the product will be good, who knows? We'll see. But this is the right step forward, and it is doing a better job than what DC did with their YA line, which has been awkward.
I would agree. Well, Perch, I really appreciate your perspective, and hopefully we'll have you on Saturday to talk about Whisper networks and stuff like that.
And look forward to it.
Later, buddy.
Take care.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.